Philosophy. We've all heard the term and we all know it's one of the most useless degrees in college yet is used, or at least that's what the skinny was back in the day. And like most things I learned back then, that wasn't true, because being a philosopher today can bring home a paycheck that you can actually live on. But what the fuck does a philosopher actually do? How do you get a degree in philosophy? And the real question, what the fuck is philosophy? I'm going to talk about all of it, starting with the definition of philosophy. And of course, there's different kinds of philosophy out there, and we'll get to most of them, but for right now, let's just say the definition of philosophy is nothing more than the study of human existence, along with all kinds of shit about our reality thrown in. And so the meaning of the word philosophy originates from the term philosophia, which means love of wisdom. Now that we got the definition out of the way, understand that philosophy is divvied up into different branches and schools of thought. A couple of the branches of philosophy, along with political philosophy, or metaphysics, as in the study of reality and existence, as well as logic and aesthetic, the study of beauty, art, and taste. Schools of thought also run from Stoicism to extensionalism, rationalism, and even empiricism. And yeah, stop laughing. People go to school to learn this shit. And no, none of it is easy. So now is the time to talk about the origins and history of philosophy. No doubt you were taught all about the old Greek philosophers, like Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle, the big three, and that Greece is the land that birthed philosophy, and there is truth to that. But ancient Greece didn't live in a void, meaning that the ancient Greeks were exposed to other cultures that helped define the Greeks' concept of philosophy. Cultures like Babylonia, Egypt, and the Persian Empire. From cosmology and the origins of the universe, ancient Mesopotamia played an important role in the development of Greek philosophy. Ancient Egypt contributed math and measurement, and Persia laid the foundation for the concept of duality and ethics. And how the Greeks absorbed all this knowledge is somewhat fascinating in illustrating how the ancient world was all interconnected. For example, Theosem Miletus traveled to Egypt and Babylon to study under temple priests, where he learned geometry, math, and astronomy. There was also active trade hubs that allowed Greeks to work and live in Egypt and other parts of the world. But the turning point for philosophy was when Greeks started asking for questions why things happened in their lives and started moving away from blaming gods for their lot in life. This is known as logos. Simply looking at the definition of the word, you wouldn't understand the reality that the word played in the establishment of Greek philosophy. So yes, we need to dive a bit deeper into why the Greeks were so different than everyone else who is mired in myth and religion and blaming the gods for all the events, good or bad, that occurred in their lives. The idea of logos, or reason over myth, originated with Heraclitus. Heraclitus was born about 500 years before Christ, and if you've ever heard the phrase that you can't step twice in the same river, know that Heraclitus said it first. And right out of the book, this dude was different. Born into a life of power and wealth, Heraclitus is said to have walked away from it all to pursue a life of wisdom. Heraclitus claimed his core belief as a newly made man of wisdom revolved around his belief that despite constant change, the universe was not chaotic and was governed by law and order, and that is the foundation of Logos. That's right, Logos means that the universe is governed by cosmic law and order. About 100 years later, when Plato came along and Aristotle, a couple of decades later, they both refined Heraclitus' belief in Logos to include human reason. That was not just cosmic law responsible for human behavior, that humans too were responsible for human behavior. And now it's time to talk about the different schools of philosophy. Schools like metaphysics that question the fundamental nature of reality. There's also the study of knowledge itself, known as epistemology. It asks how we acquire our knowledge, as well as also asking what is truth and what the difference is between opinion and belief. There's also the study of ethics, logic, and political philosophy. And to touch on quickly, there are methods that philosophers use in their studies. methods like thought experiments, and you just can't come up with any old shit because the premise of any belief has to be grounded in, some kind of logic. Now, if I've got you interested in perhaps thinking about becoming a philosopher, I tell you to go for it. Get your degree, and the money runs about $100,000 a year. And so, if you're super interested in teaching philosophy, that job market is said to be brutal. But elsewhere, it's pretty good. So go brush up on your logos and get to philosophizing. Philosophy. I haven't thought much about philosophy since I was early 20s. We had a friend. We had a group of friends. Man, too many aftershocks already. But we had a friend that embarked on a college career, wanted to get a degree in philosophy. And we all just kind of laughed at him, Like, how are you going to make any money with a degree in philosophy? Yeah, I'm going to teach. Yeah, okay. Well, turns out, though, a degree in philosophy requires a lot of critical thinking skills. And critical thinking skills are highly valued in the corporate world and in the world of government as well. Just about anywhere, I think somebody that can think critically would be worth their weight in gold. Damn. I can't think critically, but I think I kind of look like a philosopher with my gray hair and being old enough without a little crown of, gold leaf. No, that's an emperor. What am I thinking? Okay. Like I said, maybe I've done one too many shots of tequila this afternoon. I gotta stop doing all these after vlogs, one right after another. Okay. Have a good one, people. Robert Stottle.